Blessed be everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I wanted to talk about witchcraft and self-esteem and how witchcraft done well can actually help you tune more into your self-esteem and develop more self-esteem in a healthy way. But before we dive in, I'm Sandra from mysterywitchschool.com, author of Crafting Your Wiccan Path. If you want to know more about Wicca and witchcraft, magic, tarot and shadow work, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss any videos. If you want to know where to start your witchcraft practice, but you just don't know where's the best place to begin, what do I need to learn first, and then how do I end up learning all this other stuff, how to pace yourself. I have a free video. It's called How to Start Your Witchcraft Practice. It goes for probably about 30 minutes and it will help you sort all of that stuff out. So there's a link in the description field below this video, how to start your witchcraft practice. So today I wanted to talk about self-esteem and the craft, because I think a lot of people who come to the craft often come for reasons of trying to feel better about yourself, okay? Which is fine, there's nothing wrong with doing that. We want to feel better about ourselves so that we can feel happier and better in life. And I think we're here to enjoy life, and we're here to experience what we want to experience and to learn to create again. And we've forgotten this. Maybe in the past we knew why we were here. In past times we may have really understood that we were simply, consciousness trying to experience itself and create. But somewhere along the line we have forgotten all of that, and we've become obsessed with being these physical beings that are caught in almost a kind of a hell because there's so much going on around us that is constantly attacking our sense of self and our self-esteem. A lot of people have grown up in families that are dysfunctional, where there's been a lot of shaming and guilt and feelings of not being enough, not good enough, not lovable enough, and all of those things. So self-esteem is something that is actually important for us to understand and also for us to have. And when I'm talking about self-esteem, I'm not talking about the ego self, or what we call the little self. The ego self's that part that's just there to keep us safe. So it's to make sure that we eat food and that we have a roof over our head and that we don't, walk out in front of an ongoing train, that kind of thing. It's just there to make sure we stay alive long enough to do whatever we came here to do. Unfortunately, because of our culture and our upbringing and the way that we believe as a whole, we've forgotten that the ego self isn't actually the self. It is a small aspect of ourselves. It's not the one that's supposed to be running the show 24/7, but it does. Because no one understands what the true self is. We've forgotten, we've got amnesia. And so it's about, self-esteem is about tuning into that self and esteeming that self. So this is the higher self. The self that knows. The self that you can step into when you observe yourself. The self that you step into when you're meditating. The self that you can step into when you are able to look at yourself without judgment and just observe, quietly observe. It may even be the part of yourself that you're able to step into when you do healings, if you heal, or when you're doing magic, or when you are connecting to nature and connecting to other beings. So when we're looking for our self-esteem and esteeming that higher self, we can certainly do that through our witchcraft practices. Number one, it's about understanding our magical self, that we're magical beings, that we can co-create with the universe, that we are able to work with various different herbs and crystals and spirits to be able to create something that we want to experience here on planet Earth. And that puts us in a sense of not only power, it just helps us get in touch with our higher self. We can jump into our higher self to do those things. When we learn about who we truly are and we start to unravel all of the things that we've been told we should be, we can start to not look outside of ourselves for esteem. So a lot of the time our ego self is looking for things outside of itself in order to make it feel good about itself. So it's looking to be the best at something. And in order to be the best of something, it means that there has to be those who are not so good at something. And so the ego is trying to not be one of those not so goods. It's trying to be the best. Or it's trying to be humble. It's trying to be something that it thinks it should be in order for you to feel good. But if you're looking for that outside of yourself, you're never going to be happy, because that means you're always going to have to be the best. So you're going to have to always be concerned that you're not the worst or not second best. And so when we're competing with other people, when we're criticizing other people, we're actually really competing against ourselves and criticizing ourselves. The ego's like attacking itself. Every time it attacks another person, it's attacking you back, because you're comparing yourself to them. And this is not the way to get esteem. The ego can never, ever provide you with self-esteem. All the ego can do is keep you alive. And sometimes it doesn't do that very well. Sometimes it's a bit clumsy at doing that. When you can step into the higher self, your true self, the observing self, the self that can look at yourself in the mirror and say, who is looking at this reflection in the mirror? The self that can feel a tension in your body and go, who is observing this tension? Who is observing the emotion that you might be feeling, the sadness or the happiness? Who is observing the thoughts that you just had about what you're going to have for dinner? That part that it can observe all of these things. And when you're in that part that's observing, you're not getting caught up in the drama of life. You're actually just observing and being a part of it. And that self is the one that's going to help you feel the happiness and the joy and that sense of self-confidence that you're looking for. That's the self that, as you step into that more and more and more through meditation and through practices and connecting to spirit, connecting to something bigger than yourself, I guess, bigger than the ego self, the more you can step into that higher part of yourself. A lot of the time in the craft, we're working on trying to connect with, say, animals and plants energy, connecting to the spirit energy, deities. And so we realize that there's more to life than just what we can tangibly touch and taste and hear and see. We get beyond the scientific dogma that this is just a materialist universe that just randomly appeared, and so, you know, and when we die, you know, that's it. We're tapping into something that's far beyond that limited way of thinking and experiencing that there's more to existence than what we're being told. And that can help us, again, feel more of a sense of self, more into the higher self. So the way to get self-esteem is to tap into that part of you that's connected to all and everything, that part of you that's just a facet of higher consciousness, to connect to that spirit energy around you, to tune into your intuition, and realizing that through magic that you're not just connecting to all and everything, you are also influencing how things can work out for you in your life. And this can give you more of a sense of power over yourself. And the shadow work that we do in the craft, and not all witchcraft is about shadow work. Shadow work coming into the craft, I guess, is something that we're probably talking about more and more lately than perhaps back years and years and years ago. But it's really about helping us find out who you truly are underneath all of the beliefs that you have about yourself and the world. When you tune into your higher self, it's not interested in being the best. It's not interested in having to be a certain way. It doesn't care whether other people think that you're a good person or a bad person. It's just there to connect you to your path and to do what it came here to do, which is experience life. And when you can step into that part of you more and more and more, you get used to it, you'll find that you'll become more confident. You become more confident being in your own bones, or being in your own body, and being able to say no to people when you want to say no to people, or to only say yes to them when you want to say yes to them. You'll realize it doesn't matter so much about what other people think of you. You'll be more fearless when you step into that higher self, rather than trying to get that esteem from things that you do in the world and it coming from outside of yourself. It has to come from within inside yourself. A lot of people come to the magical path because of the need to feel stronger in themselves and to feel more of a sense of self-confidence. And a lot of people do get that through magic because they realize that they can actually have influence over their lives. The ego can sometimes get involved with this as well, unfortunately, and so the ego can then run amok and use magic in ways that perhaps aren't always in the end going to work out that well. But if you can step into your higher self and allow the ego to be the servant of the higher self, you'll find things will flow a lot better. The egos are like a dog. Dogs need leadership, and they're looking for leadership. Unless they're a dominant dog, they're looking for leadership. And if you can be a good leader to your dog, then you're going to probably have a happy dog. You're going to have a dog that's well behaved. It's going to be happy as well. It's not going to be nervous, thinking it's got to be the leader when really it's not meant to be. Our ego is just like that. It's not meant to be the leader. It's why it's not very good at being the leader. It gets very nervous being the leader. It's always worried something's going to happen, when the next bad thing's going to happen, because it's not meant to be the leader. It's simply meant to do a particular task, which is keep you physically alive. The higher self is actually supposed to be the leader. So think of the ego like a dog. If you want to look after your dog and keep your dog happy and healthy, then you'll be a good leader. The same with your ego. If you want your ego to look after you well and to keep you safe, then you have to step into your higher self and learn to esteem who you truly are, so that you can then be the leader in your life and allow the ego just to get on with its job of keeping you alive, while your higher self is there guiding and dealing with stuff that happens. So the craft can help you do that. I mean, any spiritual path can really help you do that if you work it properly. But the craft can certainly do that. There's no reason why it can't, because there's a lot of really good, juicy practices that are in modern witchcraft these days. And because the craft is so eclectic, there isn't really any rules when it comes to the sorts of things you can practice. You can practice meditation, you can practice chanting, you can do any spiritual practice within the craft, seriously. It's not like some religions where you can only do these things and you have to believe something in a particular way. The craft isn't like that. It's much more flexible. And I think pagans in general are quite resourceful. We realize that the world is full of opportunities. The world is full of advice and gifts, and it's simply a matter of knowing that we simply take and utilize what's there. We don't have to be judgmental of necessarily where it came from or who was the first person to invent it or practice it. And that's how it should be. We're human beings, and as human beings we learn and we grow from each other and we learn from each other. And that learning should be shared. It's not something we should be holding on to because our ego is afraid of something happening to it if you let go of it. So that's my little rant about self-esteem and the craft. 3 main things to take away with you is that through the craft, you can tap into your magical self, which will give you more of a sense of who your true self is. You can connect to your spiritual energy and to the spirit energy of animals and plants, and also geological energy as well, the energy in the rain, in the air, in the sun, in the moon, and in the seas and the lakes and the rivers. And you can co-create with the universe and become the creator you're supposed to be. And that can all happen in the craft. So if you want to learn witchcraft with me, you can certainly do that. I have a 12-month course. It's called the Mystery Witch School 101. And in that 12 months, you will be learning to practice the craft. So it's not so much about the head knowledge. You certainly get that along the way. But even if you've got a lot of head knowledge, if you haven't practiced or if you don't know how to put it into practice, it's not really going to help you. You need to be doing something in order to get the gnosis from it and to get the experience from the practice. And that's where you've got to slow everything down. It's about, the ego wants to accumulate a lot of knowledge, which is fine, but to really tap into the higher self and learn how to be in your higher self, that's a process, and that takes time to do, and you've actually got to do it. So it means you've got to take time every day to practice. So that's what I do with the Mystery Witch School 101 Academy. You've got a whole month to practice a certain amount of stuff before you get the next module to then extend that. So I slow it down for you over a 12-month period, but you can take longer than 12 months if you need to do that. So Mystery Witch School 101, link in the description field below this video. If you liked the video, hit the like button, share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe. I am Sandra from mysterywitchschool.com. Blessed be.